guys, it's Love Saloon here. Today I'm going to be showing you how to create this gorgeous Sternenstaub bracelet created by Ebony Looms on Instagram. I will have her link down below, and I'll also have a link to her Flipagram account below as well, because she has a lot of her other designs on there. So you can check her out there and give her a follow if you'd like. This design here takes about 100-120 bands or so, something in that range. I love this design so much. Here are 3 different color sequences that I did, so you can see how it gives it a slightly different look. I'm going to show you this one here because this is the one I think I like the most. I don't know, I like them all, but I'm going to go with this pattern. So obviously you guys can play around with it and see what you can come up with, but this is what I'll be showing you today. And without rambling on any longer, let's go ahead and get started. To make this bracelet, I recommend a double-ended hook, and you'll need 1 C-clip. We're going to start by grabbing whatever you want to use for your first section. So I'm going to use green for one whole section, and then I'll alternate to red and just keep alternate for the next. For my inner brown band that's in here, I'm going to use white. So I'll start with my olive green specialty band here with the cat band. And for this design, it will start with a 8-loop setup. So grab your first band, pull it through the whole cat band. You want to pick up the left part of the cat band, get that back on your hook, and then reattach the band that you're pulling through. Keep it in that order. We're going to pull 2 more bands onto this side. So here's my first one. You're going to pull it through the first 2. You're going to skip the first band closest to your hook, pick up the second one, and then reattach the band that you're pulling through. Add 1 more onto this side. Pull it through the first 2. Skip the first band, pick up the second one, and then reattach the one you're pulling through. Slide it down so we can add it on to the other side. You're going to want to open this side up before you start adding the bands on. So take that end band off and pick up the other part of the cat band and get it back on your hook. And then reattach that back on. Keep that in this order, and we're going to add 2 more bands onto this side. So just like before, you're going to pull it through the first 2. Skip the first band, pick up the second, and then reattach the band you're pulling through. And for my last one, we're going to repeat the same thing. Pull it through the first 2 bands, skip the first band, pick up the second, and then reattach that last band. You should have a total of 8 loops up here on your hook. And now we're going to go to the next part. Now for the next band that you pull through, you can switch colors if you'd like. But if you want to do the color pattern that looks like this, then you're going to want to follow me. So I will be using the same color for the next band that I do pull through. So for this part, we're going to be taking the 3rd band and we're going to cross it over the first 2. So grab the 3rd band in, pull it over, crossing it over the first 2. Make sure you keep it in that order the entire time. You want to kind of do this quickly so that band doesn't pop back over. So grab your band. We're going to be pulling this through the first 3. And then we're going to pick up the second band closest to our hook. And then reattach the band you're pulling through. We need to do that on the other side, so slide everything down. Take that 3rd band, we're going to cross it over the first 2. Make sure you keep it there. Grab your band and we're going to pull it through the first 3. You're going to skip the first band, pick up the second band, get it back on your hook, and reattach the one you pulled through. So it should look something like this. And now we can go into our next part. We are now going to grab the color band that is brown in here. I'm going to be using white for that center. So we're going to be pulling this through the first 7 bands. You're going to skip the first band closest to your hook, and we're going to pick up the second. You're going to skip the 3rd and 4th, pick up the 5th, skip the 6th, pick up the 7th. Reattach the band you're pulling through. We're going to rearrange these 2 end ones. You want the white sitting in the middle. So it should look like that. And we're going to be bringing another center band through again. I'm sticking with white for this. So we're going to pull this one through the first 5. We're going to skip the first band, pick up the second and third, skip the fourth, pick up the fifth, which is the end one, and then reattach. We're going to rearrange this, because again, we want that white sitting in the middle. So it should be sitting something like this, and you may just have to fiddle with it to get the inside white band centered. So now we're going to switch colors. We're not at the end of the sequence, but for the color pattern, we need to switch colors now. So I'm going to switch to red, and we're going to be crossing the second band over the first one. You're going to hold it there, grab your next band. We're going to pull this through the first 3. Make sure you keep that band crossed over. Pull it through the first 3, skip the first band, and pick up the second one. And then reattach the band you're pulling through. We're going to pull one more through on this side, still using the same color that you just used. And you're going to pull it through the first 2. You're going to pick up the outside band, place it back on your hook, and then reattach the one you pulled through. Slide it down, and we'll do the same thing on this side. So again, we're going to cross this second band over the first one. Make sure you hold it in place. We're going to pull our band through the first 3 bands, just like we did on the other side. You're going to skip the first band and pick up the second one, and then reattach. You want to do that part kind of quick so that band doesn't flap back over. We're going to pull one more through on this side. Still using the same red, we're going to pull it through the first 2, pick up the outside band, and then reattach. So it should look something like this, and you will have 8 loops up here on your hook, and this is actually the beginning of the sequence. It can be a little tricky because of the colors, but this is the start of your next sequence. So we're going to start the sequence by crossing this third band over the first 2. Hold that in place. I'm going to use red, still using the same color. I'm going to pull it through the first 3 bands. You're going to skip the first band, pick up the second, and then reattach the one you're pulling through. We have to do that on the other side, so slide it down. We're going to take the third band, cross it over the first 2. Keep it in that order. Grab your band, and again, you might want to do this part kind of quick because that band that we're crossing over, you want to make sure it stays in the front. You don't want it to flap back over. So pull it through the first 3, and you're going to pick up the second band, get it back on your hook, and then reattach. So it should look something like this. And now we are going to grab our center band, which is my white. We're going to pull this through the first 7. You're going to skip the first band. You're going to pick up the second, skip the third and fourth, pick up the 5th, skip the 6th, pick up the 7th. Reattach the white. You want the white in the center, so we're going to rearrange the outside 2 bands so it's sitting like this. So now we need to pull another center band through, so I'm sticking with my white. We're going to pull this through the first 5. We're going to skip the first band. We're going to pick up the second and third, skip the fourth and pick up the 5th, and then reattach that white. We want it centered, so we're going to rearrange the outside 2 bands again. Fiddle with it so that everything is centered. And it should look something like that. Except my white's a little bit crooked. There, that's a little better. So now we are going to cross this second band over the first, and this is where we switch our color. So cross the second over the first. I'm going to go back to my green. We're going to pull this through the first 3, You're going to pick up the second band, get it back on your hook, and then reattach that green. We're going to pull one more through on this side. So pull it through the first two, pick up the outside band, get it back on your hook, and then reattach that. Slide it down so we can do the same thing on this side. So we're going to cross this second band over the first one. Make sure it stays there. You might want to do this part kind of quick. We're going to pull this through the first 3 bands. And then you're going to want to pick up the second one, get it back on your hook. And then reattach it. Sorry if my nail kind of blocked that. And then we're going to pull one more through, pulling it through the first 2, and then you're just going to pick up that outside band and then reattach the one you're pulling through. So it should look something like this, and this brings us to the beginning of our sequence again. So we're going to cross the third one over the first 2. We're going to pull a band through the first 3, and then you're going to pick up the second band, get it back on your hook, then reattach that. Slide it down so you can do the same thing to this side. Take the third band, cross it over the first 2. You're going to pull this band through the first 3. You're going to pick up the second band and get it back on your hook. And then reattach this band. Now I'm going to go to my center band, which is white. Pull it through the first 7. We're going to pick up the second, 5th, and 7th band. And then reattach the white. You want that in the center, so rearrange the outside band like so. Grab another center band, which I'm using white again. We're going to pull it through the first 5. We're going to pick up the second, 3rd, and 5th band. And then you're going to reattach that white again and rearrange it so the white is in the center. Like so. So now this next part is where we switch our color for the next section, so I'll be going back to red. So we're going to cross the second band over the first one. Make sure that white stays in the front for this part. This part's a little tricky to do. You got to kind of do it quickly. We're going to pull this through the first 3. Skip the first band and pick up the second. And then reattach. We're going to pull one more band through on this side. So pull this through the first 2. Pick up the outside band. And then reattach the one you pulled through. Slide it down so we can repeat this on this side. Grab that second band, cross it over the first. Keep that white in the front like that. Pull the band through the first 3. You're going to pick up the second band and get it back on your hook. And then reattach. Pull one more band through, and this will go through the first 2. Pick up the outside band, get it back on your hook, and then reattach the one you pulled through. So that brings you to having 8 loops on your hook again, which means it's the start of the actual sequence. So I'm going to go through it without giving directions. If you want to follow along, I'm going to do like one or two more sections. And when you are ready to close it up, you're going to want to be at the point where you're getting ready to pull your center band through the 7, which is where I'm at right now. So you would pull that center band through the 7 like you normally would be doing. You pick up your 2nd, 5th, and 7th band, get it back on your hook, reattach the white, rearrange it so it's sitting in the center so that you're at this point. And then at this point you would have 6 bands up here on your hook. You would just bring one more through to close it. And then join the 2 together, and that's where you would attach your C-clip. That's all you do. So I certainly hope that was enough instructions for you guys to make this super cute bracelet. I really am obsessed with it. As you can see, I made 3 different ones. I hope you guys like it as much as I do. This was designed by the ever so talented Ebony Looms on Instagram. Please check her out. You can find more of her fabulous designs on her Flipagram account, which I will have below as well. And if you do like this, please give it a big like, thumbs up down below, and subscribe to my channel if you want to see some more super cool designs in the future. So thanks so much for your time, and I'll see you soon at my next video. Thanks, guys. Bye.